That's not all that bad, is it? None of you want to be a total failure. All of you want prosperity according to God's terminology. And therefore, if you will but meditate in the Word of God day and night, God promises you good success and prosperity. I'd take him up on it if I were you. I mean, you can't beat a deal like that. God tells us in Psalm 119, for instance, if we'll meditate in the Word of God, that we'll be smarter than our teachers. Isn't that amazing? That is, unless your teacher's meditating in the Word of God, you'll never get ahead of them that way. I believe that you could claim that verse and make better grades. The Bible teaches us in the New Testament that if we'll meditate day and night in the Word of God, that we'll not have to tell anybody that we're doing it. They'll already know. There's no question about it. You get a young person that's meditating in the Word of God, and they're going to be doing things that are godly. They're going to take opportunities to witness and soul win. They're going to take opportunities to do right. They're going to take opportunities to endeavor to help rather than hinder. You'll be able to tell the ones that are meditating in the Word of God. There'll be no question about it. Meditation, what a key it is. We need to learn then to meditate and to digest and to wait on God and to see the hand of God in our life as we meditate in it. Finally, the fourth thing that we need to do in our formula of grasping biblical truths is to master the Word of God. Verse 17. Deal bountifully with thy servant, that I may live and keep thy word. It's not enough to read, mark, meditate, memorize in the Word of God. The Word of God has got to be mastered, or the Word of God has got to master you, that I may live and keep thy word. God teaches us in Ecclesiastes, that's not too far away from Psalms. I think you could find it. Proverbs, then Ecclesiastes. A verse that you need to hold on to. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the partial duty of man. Got your attention, didn't I? This is the whole duty of man. If you have only one verse to wrap up the entire Bible, this is it. Let's look at it. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, number one. Fear God, number two. Keep his commandments. We don't have time to define fear of God. Someday I'll do that for you. But the fear of God, keeping his commandments, you understand that. And by the way, your obedience to God will be in direct proportion to your fear of God. Okay? Not talking too fast for you, am I? Your obedience to God will be in direct proportion to your fear of God. Now, for this is the whole duty of man. And of course he gives us the reason for it in verse 14. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. We're going to stand before God and give an account of our life. That's the reason why you need to fear him and keep his commandments. Now, those of you that have to leave in the next couple minutes, feel free to do so. But if you can stay for just a few minutes, I have something that's very important to say. I was trying to get all this done so I could get this last part of the sermon in. I had given you a truckload this week. I'm not so naive as to believe that all of you are meeting God every day in the Bible. Some of you have not had your cage rattled enough. Your chain is still not been clanking against the wall. We're now needing to see you the way God sees you. Let me show you the steps of backsliding, and then I want you to find out whether or not you are out of fellowship with God. You see, the Bible college is one of the easiest places in the world to backslide. You can make this Bible a textbook. You have so many areas from which to read every week. So easy that you could substitute that reading for meeting God every day in the Bible. And it will not work. The first thing that happens to a person that begins to backslide is that his mind becomes preoccupied. Preoccupied with reading, watching, playing, involved in dating. Not against dating. You might get that impression someday, but I'm not. I'm very much in favor of it. You see, when anything gets our attention over God, we have stepped on the first step of backsliding. The second thing we see that takes place in a person's life is that he leaves off meeting God every day in the Bible. Because these other things have preoccupied his life. They have gained itself around that schedule, and as a result of that, the schedule is keeping you rather than you keeping your schedule. The third thing is that you begin to shun warm, godly Christians. The young man that likes to talk about the things of God. The individual that's out soul winning. The individual that has the peace of God written all over his face. You don't like to be around that type of individual because it bothers you. You like to make fun, really, of that person that's trying to live for God. The problem is that individual's life is a constant reminder to you that you're not a hot Christian and you're not right with God, and it bothers you to be around them. The fourth thing you do, you begin to avoid your public duty. You no longer sing in the choir like you once did. You no longer go soul winning like you once did. You no longer run that bus route like you once did. You gave up that Sunday school class and said it was God's will. All of a sudden you realize that you're not giving out like you once did what God has given you. So you begin to avoid your public responsibility for God. The fifth thing you do is that you become critical. Now, the problem that has been on the inside is coming